Okay, we are going to jump right in and I'm going to show you how to use Sigil, which is an ebook editing tool. It's completely free. It's an open source tool, so that's what you see here in front of you in this window. If you haven't yet downloaded that, you can do a quick Google search for Sigil ebook editor. That's Sigil. If you go to their page, you can download the latest version. It works on both Mac as well as PC computers. So no matter what you're running there, you should be able to download and use this great program. So first of all, what I want to do is walk through and show you exactly what all of the different kind of bells and whistles and features come with Sigil, and show you how to use each of those so that in very little time you can be either editing existing ebook files or coming in here and creating your own ebook files from scratch and downloading perfect EPUBs, which is the file format that Sigil creates for you. A couple of things and kind of as background before we jump in. What Sigil is, again, is an EPUB editor. EPUB is the industry standard file type that most ebook reading devices use, so that includes Apple for their iPhone and iPad devices, as well as Barnes & Noble Nook, Sony Reader, and a lot of other ebook reading devices that are out there. The main exception to that is the Amazon Kindle line of devices, which use a format called Mobi. But we'll eventually show you how to convert your EPUB into a Mobi file, so that's not something you have to worry about too much either. But EPUB is the format that we're going to be working with. That's what this tool allows us to edit and create. An EPUB file is actually essentially a folder with a whole bunch of other different assets inside of it, and then they're all zipped together and packaged up. So what you see here on the left-hand side of the screen is actually a breakdown of all of the different files that go inside of your EPUB when we're all done. So you don't need to worry about it too much, but it is good to know that inside of your EPUB there are actually a lot of different assets, and Sigil does a really good job of keeping track of all of that for you. But in here you'll see there's a text folder that has each of the different sections of your book. We'll go in and look at how to create more of those. There's also a section for styles, which control the kind of the look and design of your book, images, fonts, audio, and other things that an ebook file needs to work properly. So one of the great things about Sigil, again, is that it handles all of that structure for you and allows us to use their kind of simple interface to just do the writing and editing of the book in kind of a visual way, which is perfect. Down actually, let's over here. There's a section called Table of Contents. As we get going and start adding sections to our book, that will start to fill out, and you'll see all the different pieces there. Each of these elements, if you hover over and grab, you can drag and manipulate the way that you're viewing the screen, so that you can show more or less of any one window. The main section that we will do most of our work in is right here. And if you open the file and there's a bunch of code there, it's probably because up at the top here there's two views. One is code view, which shows you kind of behind the scenes what's happening in HTML, and then there's book view. For our purposes, I'll keep it in book view most of the time. That's what's going to show us visually what it's going to look like in our book. Right here in this section, you can actually, just like with a word processor like Microsoft Word or Google Doc even, you can come in and type. This is a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get editor. So if you go ahead and let's just type our this is our book title, right? So you can type right into this window. This is where the content of our book will go. Up above here, I will go through and show you what all of these different tools are for. But these are what we use to actually add style and the layout to our book. this line especially is all about the look and design of the content of our book. Starting on the left, we have our H1 through H6 tags and then our paragraph tag. The H tags are all headings, heading level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Heading 1 being the largest and 6 being the smallest. So if we make our book title here an H1, that's going to show up as the largest text type all the way down through our H6. I'll go ahead and leave that as an H1. And then most of the content is going to be written in this paragraph. So if you click on the P here, that's the paragraph formatting. It's kind of the normal standard text for your book. So there you have it. So you've got your H1 tags and then your paragraph tag. I will mention now, we'll go into this a little bit later, but each of these H tags, you'll want to make sure any title or chapter, heading, or major subject in your book, it uses one of these H tags, because when we go to generate our table of contents and edit our table of contents, it's going to pull from those heading level tags. So anything that is tagged as a heading can potentially be added to your table of contents. So again, for all of your chapters, make sure that you use one of those heading levels in order to write those out so that we can add them to our table of contents. The next thing over that you will see is something that you'll probably be familiar with, especially if you've used Microsoft Word or any other word processor. These just allow us to style and format the text. I'll go ahead and highlight this so you can see what I'm doing. There's an option to make the content bold, add italics, underline, strike through. You can also do superscript and subscript, superscript. And then the next section here that you will see is the alignment of your text. So for most books, you'll automatically be defaulted here to the left alignment. Of course, you can also make either all or part of your content centered or right aligned. There is also an option here for justifying, to set justification, which kind of lines up the left and right hand margins of your content. I actually discourage using that. I wouldn't recommend it. The reason being that once we export our book into an ebook file and put it on a device, most of the popular devices actually have a justification option right on the device. And so if we set that ourselves, it forces the issue, and it can make it break on some devices. Doesn't look great. So if your user wants to view in justification, they can do that anyway, as long as we write with center or left aligned content. So but it is an option if you want to play with that. There's also options here to add bullets, so you can do a bulleted list or a numbered list. In addition, there are a few other kind of alignment options. So if you want, you can increase or decrease the indent of your content using those buttons there. A few more things. If you kind of click down here, these are having to do with the case. So you can add lowercase, which makes all of the words in the highlighted portion lowercase lettering, uppercase, title case, which does the first letter of each of the words, and then this capitalization, which goes back to how we had it originally, makes the first word in the highlighted section capitalized. So that's what those pieces there are, and that's basically it in terms of the editing features that you get. I want to point out that there are some things you won't see here. One of the kind of most notable items that you don't see there is an option to add or change fonts, and that's by design. With an ebook, you write your ebook in this kind of default text type, and when you put it on the devices, there are a lot of font options right on the devices. So if you open an ebook on your iPad, go to the settings, the end user, the reader, can go in and change between a whole bunch of different fonts right on their device. So by keeping it really simple here, sticking to just basic heading levels and paragraph text for most of the content in your book, and not adding any of our own styling, that's generally the best way to go, because then the user has the most flexibility on their end to read in the way that is most comfortable to them, and with the fonts and things that they enjoy. So that's one of the kind of things to keep in mind, as well as you're creating your ebooks, is that this is a very different format from traditional print publishing or PDF. We don't think of the content in terms of layout and design like you do with a print ebook, because it's all very fluid with a print book. With an ebook, it's all very fluid. They use what's called reflowing text or flowing text, which basically means that the content of your book is going to adjust and meld depending on the device that's being used to view it. So on a small phone, you will get fewer words in your screen or on your page than you will on, say, an iPad or a larger device. The content adjusts depending on the screen size. So keep that in mind as you're writing your book. You don't think of it in terms of pages and standard layout. Think of it more as one long flowing page that the reader gets to kind of scroll through depending on the device that they're in. And that'll become more clear as we go in and talk about how to add sections and page breaks to your book, because we can do some interesting things there as well. So there you have it. That's the kind of the basic editing features of our book. Let's go ahead and add just a few things here. So we'll say, hey, this is our great book. That's the title. And let's say this is chapter 1 of our book. And we made our title H1, so let's go ahead and make chapter 1 and H2. And here's the content of our book right there. And you can see how easy it would be to just continue to write and add content to your book that way. A few more things that we will show you how to do. First of all, I'll go through and show you what each of these options does for us. And as we go through and look at each of these, it will become more and more clear how at the end of the day we can end up with an actual ebook. But first of all, this is just a little option to create a new book. So if you click that, it'll just open a new window for us, and you could start all over or start with a new kind of blank slate. You can also open books. So if you've previously saved out an EPUB file, this is where you'll go to click and open one of those and start editing again. If there's other files and things, you can click to add those here. We can look at that a little bit more later also. And then, of course, the save option. So make sure, just like with any other content editing program, that you save frequently so that you have versions of your book. I also recommend when you're saving your ebook, don't just always save over top of your previous version. It's occasionally good to save a new version if you're spanning days with your work. Maybe every day or so have a version that you're saving with the date, so that if you make a mistake, or if you can't remember edits that you made, you can always go back to a legacy version and open those up. Undo and redo features. So if you make a mistake, you can click on this a couple of times to go back several steps in your editing, and then of course you can put those back. So undo and redo are very handy. There's cut. So if you highlight a section of content and click cut, you can pull it out. And then there's also copy and paste, which again are going to be pretty familiar to you if you are familiar with text editors and word processing tools like Microsoft Word. Find and replace is a pretty handy tool. In fact, it's what shows up right here at the bottom of the screen. You can click here to search for any words that are used in your book, and then click here to replace with something else. So you can use it just as a sort or as a search feature, or you can also do the find and replace option to swap out one word for another. Use case that I saw recently, I was working with a woman who was making an edit to her book and wanted to change the name of one of the characters in her file, and so to do that, she did a quick find and replace, changed the name of one of the characters, and it worked out really well. There weren't any real issues with that method at all. So it's a real handy and quick way to do that. More often than not, though, I use that as just a way to find certain sections of content if I can remember a line or a few words that are somewhere in the book but don't know exactly where. It's a good way to find those quickly. Then we already looked at these. This is the way that we switch between the book view and the HTML or code view. So if you do know how to do some coding or want to dive in a little bit deeper and see what's actually going on behind the scenes, you can do that with this code view. But for most of the time, most editing, this visual view works great. You can do just about everything you need from here, so you don't need to be too worried if you're not familiar with HTML, or if you don't know how to code. That's not a big deal at all with Sigil. You can still make all the edits and changes that you need generally. So that's what those are. This is an important section here. If you hover over that, it says split at cursor. Essentially what this does is allows us to choose where we want to add a new file or a new section of our book. Like I mentioned before, ebooks are not like traditional print books with pages. It's more like one long flowing page. But what we can do is split the file and actually have multiple different individual HTML files within our book. And when we do that, when we split it, like for example at the beginning of a chapter, so that each of our chapters has its own section or our own individual file, that way when we open up the file on our ebook device, the beginning of our chapters will then start a page. So they'll be the top of the screen when we open that book. So if I go ahead and click this button here to split at cursor, so you'll see my cursor is right there below chapter 1. If I split at chapter or split at cursor, it's going to create a new section. So you'll remember here, this was at the top of our page. This is our book title. And now, if we click over here, we have our section, and it automatically numbers it for us. We can go in and change those to our own titles if we'd like. But this is where the chapter 1 begins. So now we have two different files, one that has the title of our book and then one that has our first chapter here. And if you look up here in the top of the screen, you'll see we can kind of quickly switch between any that we've opened. You could close one and then reopen it by clicking over here. So this is kind of where all of the files will reside, and up here is a quick way to kind of navigate between them. So we'll do that one more time just to make sure it's very clear. Let's go ahead and copy this and call this chapter 2. So now we have chapter 1 and chapter 2. They're both right now on the same file, but if I click right here at the beginning of chapter 2 and then click this button to split at cursor, all of a sudden chapter 2 is on its own file, and now we have 3. We have one for the book title, one for chapter 1, and one for chapter 2. And these are each given kind of their own names here, but if you wanted, you can actually come to any of these, right click, and then click rename. So for example, if we want to make this our title and make this, it's going to be a little finicky for me here, make this chapter 1 and make this chapter 2. It's a good practice to make sure that you're naming these files as you're creating them, so that you know what's happening in each of these different sections of your book. So that's what that split does. So let's come here. Let's go to our chapter 1. The next thing that you will see is an option to insert a file. Generally, what you'll use this for is if you want to add an image to your book. So if you've got an image or an icon, or you can also do audio files and video files. Keep in mind that ebooks are intended to be very small files because they get downloaded to people's devices. So if you add really heavy files like videos, for example, they can bog down a device, and people may choose not to download them because they're too media rich. But the other thing to be aware of is not all devices can handle the same feature. So you may create an awesome ebook that has lots of videos and media in it, and find that only the iPad can really play those. So images are pretty safe. Most devices can handle images, even if the device is only black and white, like some of the Kindles. They will automatically grayscale your file, but the images still turn out well. So I'll show you here quickly. We'll click on this. This brings up a little box here that shows us any images that we've already loaded into our ebook, which of course we have not yet. So you click here on Filter, and then click Other Files. And this is going to allow us to search our computer for other images and content on our computer, and then bring them in. So I'll just go ahead and do that here. Oh, and I pulled that out of the screen. So, got a file here that has a couple of images in it. I'll click on my image and click Open. And there you go. Puts our image right there into the book that we are working on. So now we've got our chapter with an image that's been entered in. Another thing to note is that it's important to size your images before you bring them in. Again, large images and large files can bog down the reading experience and make your book, file large enough that sometimes people may not even want to download it. But more importantly, and maybe not more importantly, but also an important thing to note is that they're going to be added at the same size that they are actually. So if you have a really big image, it's going to show up really, really big. So you're going to want to size it down in Photoshop or an image editor before you pull it into the book, so that it's the right size, a nice small size for your book. I'll go ahead and click here again, so just so you can see, now that that's been added, it is actually in our images folder. So that file can be called on again in the future if you wanted to add it somewhere else in the book. You can also click here now and see inside our images folder there is this frog image that we've added. So again, Sigil kind of keeps track of all that for you, but at least you can be aware that that's where that is at. There's a few other things here that we can go into in more detail later. There's maybe some special characters that you want to add. You can click here to see what those are. Click to add those in, and then this little anchor icon inserts what's called an ID. So if you wanted to create links within your book, so a user is going to, for example, click on, let's say I have a little thing that says go to chapter 2. We could create a link that goes from chapter 2 to chapter 2 in the book by adding an ID or an anchor within your content. So if I come here, highlight this, ID, chapter 2, oh, invalid. Must start with a letter followed by a number. Okay, so I've named that A1. Apparently that has to start with a number followed by a letter. Now, if I want to create a link, I can do that by clicking, so if I want to create a link from this go to chapter 2, I click on my link option, and it's going to pull up this select target box, which is going to show me a few things. So it's going to show me any of my individual chapter or individual sections of the book. So that's what this chapter 1 is, my title, chapter 2, and then you'll see this one is chapter 2, and then it has a #A1. That's the link that we just created, or that's the little ID that we just created. So if I click on that and then hit OK, now I have a link in my book, and when I click on that, it will take me to chapter 2. So if you're creating internal links within your content, that's a handy way to do it. And if you need links in general, this is where you'll go. You'll highlight your content, and then you'll choose where you want that link to go. Or you can enter, so for example, if you want to go to a resource that's online, we could enter a URL right there, hit OK, and that will turn that into a link for us as well. So that's how you add links, and again, that's one of the many things that make ebooks great. They can be a little more interactive. You can help people to easily navigate through your content. If you reference something, you can link right to the source. If there's a video that you do want to play and you don't want to add the large file to your book, you can just click on that link and add a link right to a YouTube video or something that's hosted online, and it makes things really handy. The last couple of things that are worth looking at here. So Sigil has a couple of options here, like a donate button. So if you wanted to donate to Sigil, they're great. They are a free open source tool. That's what that is. And then over here, these are some things that are important for your book as you are getting ready, especially to publish. And I recommend that you kind of hold off on using these too much until you are, close to done in terms of creating all your content, laying out all of your different pages, and then come here and make sure, as a last step, you go into each of these. This option here has to do with metadata, which basically is kind of background information or meta information that sits within your file to give devices like the iPad that you're going to open your file on, gives it information about your book. So for example, we give it the title and an author. File as is generally the author name backwards, so your last name, then your first name. But those are the things that you can add there. You can add the language of your book. You can add roles and different things if you've got contributors or other people involved with your book, and then hit OK to save that out. And that just saves in the background. That's going to save to one of these files here as information about your book. But those are important because in order for your book to validate, which means for your book to kind of pass inspection on the ebook stores, they need to have metadata. So make sure you click on that and at least enter the author name and title of the book. Make sure it's got a language that's declared in the metadata. The next thing that you'll want to do is to click on this Generate Table of Contents. So what you will see is it automatically finds for us any of our heading levels. So we've got our great book title, H1, and then we have our Chapter 1, H2, Chapter 2, H2, and we can click whether or not we want to include those things. I've unselected those, so I'm going to hit cancel, but when you do that search, it'll pull them all in. Make sure you select or deselect any that you don't want there, and then hit OK, and that will create our table of contents. So now we have a table of contents, and there's an actual table of contents file in our book that tells us the structure of our book. That gets used in a number of ways. Most devices have a little button or icon that you click on for the table of contents that pulls up a page or a screen that shows you all of the links in the book, all of the table of contents links in the book. And so this is how we generate that and tell the device what chapters to display there. So this is an important piece that you don't want to forget. Otherwise, when you export your file and somebody clicks on that little link, it's going to be a dead link. It won't go anywhere. It won't work. And that's definitely not good for user experience. So that's how you add a table of contents to your book. There's a couple of other things. If you click this more arrow, or if you on a larger screen, it'll show up on the right hand side here. There's a little spell check tool. You can click that to see if there are any misspelled words, common words that you want to go through. It's a quick way to see if there's anything that you need to fix. And then there's also a validator tool, which is, again, it's very handy. It's going to go through and make sure that your book passes all of the kind of standards and regulations for an EPUB file. And in order for your book to be accepted by online stores like Apple, they have to validate, so they have to pass that inspection. If you stick with kind of standard formatting and lay out your book using Sigil, most of the time you're not going to have any real issues. The trouble comes when you start to make edits to the code. So if you're doing a lot of work here in the code, you may want to occasionally validate and make sure that you haven't done anything that is not considered valid EPUB code, because sometimes even if it visually shows up right, there may be something in the back that is triggering it to not validate, and so you'll have to get that fixed before you can upload it to the store. So that little tool is a good way to make sure that that's happening, and to make sure that your book is going to be accepted once you're ready. Now, one more thing I want to show you, because we've gone through just about all the important elements. Now you can create chapters and sections of your book. You can create links. You can add images. We've gone through most of the important elements, but there's one more thing I want to show, and that is how to add a cover image, because that's an important piece of any book. So you want to make sure that your book has a cover and that it's well formatted. And it's actually relatively easy to do. What you do, and you actually can't see because of how my screen is here, but up at the very top there are a number of tools, and you will actually see one option that says tools. So if you go to the very top and go to tools, so the top of your screen, tools, and then add cover, that's going to pull up this add cover option, and that's going to allow you to choose one of your files that's already been uploaded to your book as the cover image, or click other files to search your computer. So I'm going to go here, find my ebook resources, find my cover image, and click open. And there you have it. It is going to pull in my cover image, and it's going to automatically format it the way that it should be for an ebook. I generally recommend creating a cover image that's somewhere like 5x7 in terms of kind of the layout. And then when you upload it here, it's going to create its own file. It's going to call it cover. It's going to code it so that it aligns the way that it should. It's going to code it so that it views well on many devices, and it shows up the right size and dimensions. So it makes it really, really easy for you. So again, top of your screen, there's an option menu called Tools, and then right under that it says Add Cover. You just click on that, and that'll open that little image dialog box to grab and edit or enter your cover image. Now, once you're all done, once you've got everything added to your book and it looks exactly the way that you want, you can go here to save your book out, and that's going to save it as a .epub file, which is the EPUB ebook format that gets used by all of your devices. And if ever you need to make edits or changes, you simply click here to open your file, find it on your computer, open it back up, and you can make those edits very, very easily. So we'll in next videos and some of our other content, we'll go in and show you how to convert this EPUB file that we've created into other formats. We'll show you how to preview it, how to look at it on different devices, and then how to even upload it to the various stores so that you can start selling your book.